Hello there! Welcome back to PAX and Recreation. And today we are continuing the Wilds of Eldraine saga and talking about the Commander Decks. Now, first thing you will realize is that they changed the packaging once again. I don't know what to make out of this one. I think I like it. Or actually I don't. It's complicated. I know that no one cares about packaging, like you just care about the cards inside and just rip this thing and like whatever. And the box is bad cardboard. We only care about the good cardboard, which is the cards, right? But like, I know that Commander boxes have changed a lot through time and they are very wasteful in terms of packaging, but bear with me for a second. The first Commander boxes, which I don't have with me, sadly, were the ones that showed like the 3 cards in behind the plastic, and that wasn't very good, and plastic is not very good for recycling, etc. So that evolved into the gigantic Commander packs, right? So that evolved into this, and these ones, as you can see, packaging has changed. As you can see, like it was like, oh, you have the card, and it wasn't like great. It was like very visually eye-catching. See what happens with this card? And this thing is new, so like new in the sense that I never opened it. But since it kind of clicked off, the card moves, and that's very bad. And that happened a lot. And this happened with this one. I believe it just happened right now because I did this, and that's why the card just became unhinged. But this isn't very good. It's like the Planeswalker decks, like the card is there exposed, so it gets like... But again, the Commander decks was worse because the catch was the Planeswalker decks, the catch was a Planeswalker, a bad Planeswalker, but still it will bend. These gigantic cards, no one plays with them, but still they were like a nice thing to like have, or at least maybe some people play with them, I don't know. It was a pain in terms of sleeves, but then we moved into the usual, or what we consider the usual, right? So this, which is kind of similar to that, it still shows you the colors and all that. You have the card in the forefront, and then you have this thing that I find very interesting, which is, and I always commented this with friends and family, is that it's kind of weird that then you have the horizontal ones as well, the ones that were for like Kaldheim or for March of the Machine for different reasons. The March of the Machine ones were like more wide because of the Planeswalk, not Planeswalk, the plane chase cards, and the ones from Kaldheim and all that were just like that for some reason. I don't know. I always like these because you actually get to see the card and you get to read the card, and it's the main focus. And you have the card here, which is smaller than the actual card. It's kind of the same size, but not really. This is actually bigger. And packaging here, this is because you have the box inside now, and the cards actually come inside the box instead of the box being like folded. And you have collector sample boosters with 2 cards, and you have a different art here. It always was funny to me that this is the main art, and they had another art that it was just for the side of the box. I always found that funny. And then you have like what the deck is about, and 3 like featured cards, and the secondary commander is always here and stuff like that. We had like a cheaper version with the starter commanders, right? And it was like a smaller box, as you can see, right? Because there's a lot of ways, because this one doesn't come with a box, this one doesn't come with a plastic commander card, because now these ones come with a plastic commander card instead of an oversized one. And this doesn't come with any of the stuff that normally comes with the others. Just this doesn't come with a booster or anything. It's just like 100 card deck box, which is folded, if I recall correctly, and then double-sided tokens. And this is supposed to be a baby commander deck, quotations. I will get back to this in a second. This is actually the worst one from this generation. And this one is like, well, you have the foil edge display commander, the life wheel, which no one uses, strategy insert, which no one cares except for me, reference card, and then, the deck. Now, why is this important? Because, well, this one is a lot smaller, and they actually use the alternative art here. This art is not the art of the card. that's the one in the back. But for some reason, they only put the commander here. What about the other cards? And it's kind of small. It's kind of difficult to read what the commander does. Now, we can assume that if you're buying these, you already know what commander is, and you can look up for the card online. But really, like, it's kind of small. You can read it, I guess. If I do it like this, maybe you can read it. Like flying, death touch, other first you control get +1/+1, etc. So, I don't know. I don't know if I dislike it. I think it's more eco-friendly for sure. It's like less waste. But I don't know. It feels like this feels like a toy. What it is, like, it feels like, I'm very foily. This is foil, right? It shines, and this as well. This is even worse. This shines a lot more. This doesn't even have the curvature that this one has, and it feels like a cool thing that you buy. This just feels like a box of cereal. It's kind of weird. I don't necessarily like it. But now, box discussions aside, let's talk about these decks. Let's start with the spoilers, the weakest one of the two. Virtue and Valor. Buff your creatures, crush your foes. Now, this thing I like about this new packaging, it actually gives you like a summary of what the deck is about right here, instead of you having to come here and be like, blood is beautiful, blah, 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 and hello the painter, blah, 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 It's like, nope. Buff your creatures, crush your foes. That's how it is. And Commander, Wilds of Eldraine, drawing, and the blah, 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 if you care about that, right? So, not bad. Now, let's open this, baby. At the end of the day, all this box discussion, and it didn't open properly, and everyone throws these boxes away because they are single use. Like, you rip them, hopefully better than I did this myself. There you go. And, that's it. Like, this is just trash. Now, one thing that really I don't like is, let me see if maybe this thing is in the back. Oh, it is, but I just can't seem to be able to open a commander box. Well, in my defense, you're seeing how glued this thing is, right? Well, I can't open this properly, but the text underneath says Squire for hire, which I always like the text that comes in the bottom of the Commander Master decks. PreCon decks. Now, take it out. There's the thingy. It's all trash. See, all this conversation for something that only I care apparently. Now, not bad looking, kind of more intelligent. The box is here. The tokens are here. So you get, that's another thing that no one cares really. It's like it came with a bunch of tokens and said like, oh, you can use this as victory confetti, and like no one really cares about it. Still, they could fit them here, I guess. So, shame on you, Wizards. But now they only put 6. Which, again, who cares about this except me, maybe. Because I always pop them and put them into the box. The box is not here. Now, they went for the old approach, which is the box is folded. So, you have to... This is very, to be honest, this is mathematically correct. This design is shit, by the way. At least you can just use the new symbol for Eldraine, or like put the commander here. This is just shit. So, you get your box. Paper box. Not even sure if I could cover this cardboard. It's just hard paper. The commander there. It's just like, do your thing. Oh, at least they have a creature here, which fits the flavor of the deck. Now, the booster and this immediately becomes trash as well. So this goes here. The insert that only I care about, let's see. Another piece of art, so that's great. At least you have like multiple things, even though if you only see them once, which is kind of a Eliver of the Wild card, or Eliver of the Wild card. There you have a little bit of lore, which is always great. I'm not going to read it, but I could if you want. Just leave me a comment down below so I can go just full audiobook and go Eliver, now Sir Eliver, was born into a noble family in Ardenvale when it still stood tall and Kenrith ruled as High King. She was peculiar. She spoke no words nor cried until the 10th birthday when, during the ceremony, she was to release a caged dove. As she opened the cage, the dove clambered onto her outstretched hand where it rested calmly. And blah blah blah. After the Phyrexian invasion destroyed her home at Ardenvale, so this is everything after the Phyrexian invasion, different art, and how to play the deck, which is, you know, kind of a summary of sorts, and the rules. Now, I like this because, well, you get like a nice summary. You know, I'm a sucker for inserts, so I'm not going to apologize for it. Let's see what's in the Collector Booster Sample Pack, which is basically a couple of random foils. I will really love to open this in a ninja way, but oh, cool, nice. Makeover montage. Let's see. Faunsbane Troll in white art and Ground Seal in white art foil. Well, not white art because these are the enchantment cards. So, not bad. Okay, now for the Commander deck. Let's talk about it as I show you the cards. And I just realized that one of my gloves was destroyed in the process of opening this box. But, oh well. Hey, hazards of the job, right? Now, there you go. Life in Plastic is fantastic. This is the plastic commander card. Actually, no, sorry. These are the two commanders. And the plastic commander card is on the back. So, let us read the commander, what it does, and you will understand my critiques about this deck. Eliver of the Wild Court. For 2, 1 green, 1 white. It's a legendary creature, human knight. Whenever Eliver of the Wild Court enters the battlefield or attacks, create a virtuous roll token attached to another target creature you control. If you control another roll on it, put that away onto the graveyard. Enchanted creature gets +1/+1 for each enchantment you control. Whenever an enchanted creature you control deals combat damage to a player, draw a card. That's kind of good. Now, the commander itself and the deck itself, it's not bad, don't get me wrong. Now, the commander, it's interesting. Because, well, you have Eliver, and then the co-commander, or the secondary commander, or the second option is Gilwain, Casting Director. For 1 green, 1 white, is a human bard, 2/3, that says, whenever it or another non-token creature enters the battlefield under your control, choose 1. Create a royal roll token attached to that creature, create a sorcerer roll token attached to that creature, or create a monster roll token attached to that creature. So as you can see, that's one of the main mechanics of this deck. And the whole deck is all about the rolls. Now, and it's just a fancy way of just saying, well, buff your creatures, right? And that's kind of what it is. I love how they always change the order of the cards between like sets. Pirate, 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 Human, Pegasus, Human Soldier, Fairy, Human, Fairy, Fairy, Saproling, Fairy, Saproling, Fairy, Saproling, Fairy, Saproling, Copy, Copy, and the Virtuos and Monster tokens. Ironically, you will assume that there will be a lot more of these given your commander than Fairies, because it's not the Fairies token deck, but I don't know. Apparently, I don't know. So, Unliberated Livestock. You will see that the whole point of this deck... Wait, today, something is wrong today. The whole point of this deck is buff your stuff and play around with enchantments. In this case, the enchantments are more on the playing with the virtuous side of it, and you have new cards such as Unfinished Business, and funny enough, the cards are in numerical order, which is not always the case, I think. Some of, everything is about enchanted gets ++, so it's like get big, smash, get big, smash. This card is either very bad or ridiculously good, because for X and 1 green, You have a 1/1 that says enters the battlefield with X+1/+1 counters on it. Whenever enters the battlefield, reveal the top X cards of your library. You may put any number of aura cards with mana value X or less from among them onto the battlefield. Then put all cards available this way that weren't put into the battlefield at the bottom of your library in a random order. So this is kind of very crazy as a card. And very good as well. So you just, I mean, obviously you need more mana to push it. So for the early game, it kind of works. For the late game, this thing smashes. And this is the card that everyone complains about the art not making any sense. Because the flavor text says, give me just a moment, I need to grow as a new bridge. However, she seems like she's destroying the bridge, although it's green magic, so you could assume that she's building the bridge. But the troll on the other side seems like it's attacking, unless that troll is part of the party and she's saying that to the troll. I don't know, it's kind of a weird instance of flavor, art, and gameplay not really matching each other. Timber Paladin is kind of an interesting card. As long as it's enchanted by exactly 1 aura, it's a 3/3. As it's enchanted by 2 auras, it's a 5/5 with vigilance, and if it's by 3 or more, it's a 10/10 with vigilance and trample. So you can already see where this is going, right? Again, it's chosen. You create tokens and small creatures because white, and you get them very big with mana ramp and enchantments because green, right? Angelic Destiny. Some of these cards don't really fit the theme visually, but they fit it in terms of mechanics. Enchanted creature gets +4/+4, has fly and first strike, and is an angel in addition to its other types. When the creature dies, return angelic to its owner's hand, which is very good. Archon Sun's Grace. So there is a bunch of cards that are just like reprints, and you have obviously your board wipes because white. And it's all about enchanted. So it's all about enchantments. There's not much to say about this. You have Bestow, which is interesting, and then it's all about your commander just getting them a +1/+1 and multiplying that per enchantment you control, because you have some creatures, but as you have seen, most creatures are enchantment creatures, and if not, they are just things that work with this is a board wipe in disguise, by the way. These are all like enchantment tribal, right? So is this a bad deck? Not at all. Is this a good deck? Not at all. This deck is a-okay. I will say, if there was ever a time to say this deck is okay, I guess it's this one. It's not bad, but it's not good either. And that's kind of the theme with these decks, and you will see when we also talk about the other one. Mechanically, here's the thing with the commander decks, right? You have multiple times. Back in the day, you only had one commander deck set per year, right? It was like 5 decks or 4 decks, and it was once a year. So it was an event. It was like Commander 2013, Commander 2014, Commander 2017. And they will go with some new things. For example, 2014 was the year of like, oh, Planeswalkers can be commanders because we print that line of text in the card. So they can be commanders, and they're going to be monocolor, and you're going to use them. And it was like a mixed bag because it will be like, well, monocolor is kind of meh, and there are Planeswalkers, so I don't know. But the decks were interesting, and to this day, some of those are some of the best commanders. So like Freyes, I think it's Freyes, the green one, Freyalise, I don't remember the name. Like 2017 was the year of the tokens, I think. And 2016 was the year of Eminence, if I recall correctly. And to this day, those are still some of the best commanders because they are broken because of Eminence, like Edgar Markov and the Ur Dragon, etc. Commanders that, by the way, great reprint and very useful for this deck. This will be a mandatory upgrade for this deck, but it's here, so thank you, I guess. Like the thing will be that they will have like a theme per year, right? So sometimes the theme was kind of loose, like the partner year. There was a year that all decks had partner. So you had your main commander, and then you had partner commanders, just for you to try that. Those Generous Gift has to be here. So that's the type of thing. Like there are so many staples per color in Commander that at this point it's like you actually just have like a 60 card deck because the other 40 are just staples from Commander that you need to have. So I guess in the end, standard one again. Careful cultivation. See, some of these are just like... and why I'm bringing all these things while I'm showing you this deck, because there's not much to this deck. It's like enchantments +1/+1 or +X/+X, and your commander just plays into that. And if you use the casting director, you can just choose what type of enchantment you put in on top of them because they are token enchantments. So it's enchantment tribal. Now, recently, like the last 2 or 3 years, Wizards decided to just release a commander deck set per set, and then some more stuff based on whatever. And for example, this year we had, last year we had the new Capenna decks, and then we had the starter commander decks, and those were 5 and 5. And technically, the one that gets 5 decks is the strongest one. So this year it was March of the Machine. So Phyrexia got 2 decks, and one for the Resistance, and one for the Phyrexians. March of the Machine got kind of all over the place, and it was like, you know, everything all over the place and plane chase and all that. But it was the strong one technically, because in my opinion, March of the Machine is the real anniversary set, right? Then we got Lord of the Rings, so that got 4 as well, but that doesn't count because Lord of the Rings, so we don't count that one. Even though we got Warhammer, which was like 4 last year as well, but whatever. And then just this year, we also got Commander Masters, and that was 4, right? And now we're back to standard, and we have 2 per set. And I think Ixalan is going to be 2 as well. So when they do 2, you can tell that it's like, we don't have much of a, like, yeah. There is one set that is the set that gets 5 or 4 commander decks, and then the other sets just get 2 because, like, whatever. And they try to, you know, make a point of the mechanics of the set. For example, for Phyrexia, all will be one. One of the decks was the Rebellion, and the other was the Phyrexians. And the Rebellion had the 4 Mirrodin mechanic on all that, right? So that was the flavor here. In these decks, I don't know what the flavor is. Like, this one is enchantment, which is 90% of what Wilds of Eldraine is about. You even have like the enchantment side set that is on every booster, and then the other is fairies. So I guess Wilds of Eldraine is fairies and enchantments. I guess that's the thing. I don't know. So they're kind of boring. That's my whole point. It's like, I see this deck. This is not a bad deck by any means. It's not, I mean, it's a 30-something bucks deck. I wouldn't pay more than it for it. And then this one, kind of same logic. Let's see if I can open this one easier. Again, small fairies, big trouble. And as you can see, it says, summon flocks of fairies, play tricks. So the other was enchantments and buffing, and this one is fairies tribal. Now, I don't have a problem with... most of the commander decks are tribal, I guess, to a degree. Or typal, sorry. And I guess, again, same packaging, like not much to say here, I guess. Some of the commander decks are just tribal on something. Like, oh, this is a knight's commander deck. This is a vehicles commander deck. This is a... I don't know, it's always... Oh, now not even the boxes are... The quality control is off the roofs. This one is not even working properly, which kind of triggers me, to be honest, because I normally store the things here until I get them a proper box and all that stuff. So there you go. This goes here. This is nothing. The deck and the insert. Now let's see the insert. Amazing looking art. By the way, this is a male fairy. I don't know if you knew that. They make a point of referring to that. Tegwil, Duke of Splendor, and some flavor here. At a mere 400 years old, Tegwil is a relative newcomer to high fae politics in Twinville. Handsome and quick-witted, he considered himself a natural fit in the refined court of King Lord Talion. And how to play the deck, right? There are two different arts here, but you wouldn't tell because the two are very similar. Like, this is just him with both hands down, and this is him with one hand up. And yeah. So, and this is how you play the deck. And this is basically it's weird that this one is blue and black, because it really behaves like what you will expect a green-white deck to behave. It's a lot of small creatures and get them to grow. In terms of the commander booster, makeover montage, Court of Ardenvale, which is a very good card, by the way. When Court of Ardenvale enters the battlefield, you become the monarch. And at the beginning of your upkeep, return target permanent card with mana value 3 or less from your graveyard to your hand. If you are the monarch, return that permanent card to the battlefield instead. And an enchantment, Spreading Seas in foil. Not bad, not great, but it's something. Now, this is out of the way. Let's talk about the deck itself. As you can already imagine and see, it's a blue-black fairies deck. And it's all about preventing your opponent from playing and, well, having fairies, I guess. Now, in terms of decks, this one is the more expensive, and not only because of the reprints, but because it's also the more interesting one, I will say. If you look at the plastic card, the commander, by the way, let's see what this commander is all about. Tegwil, Duke of Splendor. 1 black, 1 blue. The 2/3 legendary creature fairy noble that says flying, Death Touch. Other fairies you control get +1/+1. Whenever another fairy you control dies, you draw a card and you lose 1 life. So you can already see where this is going. And the co-commander is Alela, Cunning Conqueror. For 2, 1 blue, 1 black. It's a 2/4 fairy warlock that says flying, whenever you cast your first spell during each opponent's turn, create a +1/+1 black fairy rogue creature token with flying. Whenever one or more fairies you control did combat damage to a player, go the target creature, target player that player controls. So that's nice and useful, but obviously you want to be here. So it's basically Death Touch to like protect yourself a little bit, but it's like buff your fairies a little bit and just send them into suicide again and again and again, because that's kind of what the deck needs in terms of tokens. And the tokens used to be in a different pack together with the plastic card. Now they put everything together, which is, I guess, to make the packaging smaller. It does ruin a little bit the surprise of like, well, let's see what kind of, but still we can see the tokens and try to guess what type of deck this is. 5 fairy rogues. And on the other side is fairies, and pirates. I just saw that both decks have pirates for some freaking reason. Another fairy rogue. These are blacks. These are blue blacks. 1/1, but they are the same pretty much. Another 5 of them. And then on the other side is just 3 fairies, blue fairies, and 2 copies. So you have black fairies, blue fairies, and black-blue fairies. So there is that. This deck is a little bit more interesting because fairies didn't had that much support in the past, and you have some cards like these, right? Like Flying War 2. Whenever you cast a fairy or a wizard permanent spell, copy it, and that's very nice. Or you may have Malevolent Imposter into the battlefield as a copy of a creature opponent controls, except it's a fairy shapeshifter. So it's all about copying and just messing with your opponent. Misleading Signpost, Flash. Whenever Signpost enters the battlefield, during the declare attack step, you may reselect which player or permanent target attacking creature is attacking. And that's great. And you can tap it for blue. So this is a great artifact, actually. It only works the first time, but then it just gives you blue mana, which is okay, I guess. Shadow Puppeteer. It gives you fairies. Whenever you create a creature you control attacks, it may become a red dragon, which is funny because there's no red dragon tokens here. It's ironic. Black Wing Bandit, same here. Flying Death Touch, so you have the dangerous fairies here. Whenever you cast your first spell during each opponent turn, look at the cards, you can keep playing. Fairy Blade Crafter. So you can see that is just get stuff, sacrifice them, keep doing crazy stuff. You get pirates, you get dragons, you get stuff. It's just like, it's a little bit more creative in terms of what the deck is. Not that that deck is bad, the deck is just simple in the sense that it's just like buff your stuff. You have little friends, buff them. Here is just everyone is a kamikaze and just trying to kill and mess with your opponent as much as possible and create more fairies and more fairies. Fairies, mind you, since most of them are blue in this deck, are not very well priced in terms of cost. So they all have like weird effects. And then you have things like Hullbreaker Horror, which I don't know why this thing is here. I mean, in terms of flavor, it has nothing to do. In terms of deck, well, I will argue that every blue deck should have Hullbreaker Horror, but that's just because I like this card a lot. So, and why? Because it has flash, it can be countered, and whenever you cast a spell, choose up to one. Return target spell you don't control to its owner hand, or return target non-land permanent to its owner hand. So the best thing you can do with Hullbreaker Horror is to cast it in your opponent's turn. That's why it has flash, and it's a Hullbreaker Horror, so it appears and destroys stuff. It's a 7/8, so this is a late game kind of thing, but it blocks a lot of stuff. It can be countered, so you can always block with it, and it will be in your battlefield for when it is your turn, and when you start casting spells, its abilities triggers, and that's great because you can just start bouncing stuff back. Now, be careful with what you bounce, because if you bounce stuff that actually has enter the battlefield effects, that's not very good. And fun fact, you can only bounce target spell you don't control to its owner's hands, but you can return non-land permanents to its owner's hand. You can bounce your own stuff, which is great because you have some stuff here that is like when it enters the battlefield, right? Such as where was the card? See, like this, you can copy different stuff, etc. You can just reset. You can see like the artifact as well. You can just reset it, etc. So you can just reset a bunch of these cards to go again, as you will see. You will say in Flesh and Blood, right? Reflections of Lead Jara, Scion of Una, Sower of Temptation, and all about this is like, well, you have a bunch of flying, but it's just like non-tokens. Mess with it. Kindred Dominance is a very good card for this deck. Nightmare on Making. Just again, this is a very nasty deck. This could be the commander of this deck, actually. It's not, thankfully, because it's very hard to pilot, I will say. Has Flying Haste, and whenever it deals combat damage to a player, you choose any number. Everyone discards a card, everyone loses one life and draws a card, or everyone sacrifices a creature. So it's more than Master of Pranks, it's like Master of Chaos. Thrilling Encore, it's kind of a shitty card for two reasons. One is it is too expensive for what it is. It's a counter board wipe. So yeah, you're supposed to have like 5 mana sitting to activate this. I don't know. Second, what is this? Ratchet? From Ratchet and Clank? I don't know. So Glen, Elendra Leech, other creatures you control, other blue creatures, black creatures. So this card is perfect for this. It's kind of expensive. Nimris, Una's Trickster. Again, the first spell during each opponent's turn is always like you play on other people's turns. That's all this deck is about. If it doesn't have flying, it has some sort of effect like flash, or like you can cast this into the opponent's turn because it's an instant, or etc. And your cards trigger with that, and they love it. Fairy Rogue, everything costs 1 less to cast. This is actually very good, and it's a fairy. Picklock Prankster, you have 2 sides to this coin, and both are very useful. Spell Stutter, this is actually from the set itself. plus an additional 1 for each fairy you control. So there's a good fairy tribal there. Obira, Dreaming Duelist. Each opponent loses 1 life. So you see, there's a very good, and most of these cards that you're seeing here are from the set. They are not like reprints. Some of these, yes, like Consider and stuff like that. But there are a lot of cards that are just on the set. So, which feels good and same time feels like a cop-out because you get like 10 new cards in both decks, and then the rest is kind of greatest hits. It makes sense that some cards are from the set itself, but just give me more fairies, I guess. To be honest, there aren't that many fairies that are useful or aren't like crazy expensive that they could put here. So I guess this is a good deck. Now, long story short, the deck is what it is, right? You're seeing what it is. It's just like very crazy deck of like having fairies and just messing with your opponent and like copying their stuff, blocking their stuff, playing on their turn and stuff like that that people just love, right? That's sarcastic, by the way. All the Commander staples are here, and it's blue-black, which are arguably the 2 strongest colors in Commander, right? So, and then, you know, all the lands and all that stuff. In terms of what this deck is and what this deck is not, well, this deck is good. It's the better of the 2. And it actually feels more interesting because it's a fairy deck that actually does stuff in a fairy set. So you can actually improve it with some of the cards from the set itself, or you can just go get stuff from all around. Now, in terms of between these decks, my preferences, so to be honest, I prefer these colors to these colors normally, but yeah, this deck is just better than this one. So this will be, let me just move this apart so that you don't get confused. In terms of value, this is slightly more valuable than this one in terms of like reprints and stuff. Not by much though. In terms of gameplay, this is more straightforward. So I guess this is better for a beginner. But this one is more crazy and interesting. It feels more like you are messing with people. So I guess there is that as well. And in terms of, I don't know, overall fun with the deck, I had more fun with this one. Now, there is a reason for it, and it's because even though this deck was kind of funny to play with and is interesting still because it has all the, you know, the rolls that you put on them and the +1/+1s and all the multiplications with enchantment, etc. It felt kind of familiar, and there's a good reason for it, and it's because those 2 colors were already in a different set, in a different Commander deck that came like a month ago. So I've been playing and playtesting these ones for the review that we did. Link is there or there. I don't know where the links are put nowadays, but like the Anixia deck is weirdly one of the best decks of the Commander Masters, and it's also white-black. It's also white and green. It has black, right? Which is a color that you don't have here. But the gameplay is very similar. It's also enchantments, 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 enchantments. So technically, and as someone pointed out, I don't remember who, some cards are even shared between the 2 decks. Besides, you know, the Commander staples, which those are in every deck nowadays. So I will still maintain it like this. I prefer this to this one. This is a good one, but it just feels repetitive after Commander Masters. If this comes now without the Anixia deck, I will maybe rank this one higher, but it just felt like I already know this deck. I'm kind of bored of it, kind of. It's not the same deck as the other, but it feels very similar. So I just prefer this one, I guess. It's funnier. However, overall, they don't feel like that good, to be honest. They feel more like this, and this is why I wanted to keep this box around. They feel more like a starter Commander decks. And not just because of the packaging, because of the whole mechanics and the punch they have. They feel like not as strong as Commander decks of the past. And that's okay. Not every Commander PreCon needs to be the second coming of Richard Garfield, but, you know, still, it's like, I don't know, it feels soft. And I will recommend that if you have to buy them, $35. That will be my limit. Don't pay markups. There's no reason for anyone marking this up. $35, that will be my higher limit on this. Obviously, if you can get them cheaper, be my guest. If you get them at 25 or 30, even better. Unless you really like enchantments or you really, really like fairies, maybe just wait a little bit, because if you wait for like, I don't know, until Ixalan comes out, these both will go down. So if you don't want to spend much money, just wait a little bit. Otherwise, they are okay, but that's it. They are okay. They are not great. They are not bad. They're just okay. So, and to me, that's a $35 commander deck. I don't want to give I don't want to be like grade B. Love you, prof. But I am more of a money kind of guy. So to rate things, because things are always proportional to their value. So to me, this is like a 35 to $30 commander decks right here. And that will be it. Will it ever pay more for this? Less, always welcome. But that's the range where they are good. If you get them for 20, they are great. Or 20, 25, they are great. But if you get them for 30, 35, they are good. If you get it for more, they are bad. That's how it is. Same logic as a video game, right? It's like, oh, this video game is good on Game Pass because you're just paying the subscription, so it's good. But will we pay $60 for it? No, I wouldn't. So this is kind of the same. And that was it. Let me know what you think in the comments about these decks. Let me know if you got one of them, or you prefer one of them, or you have any thoughts on this. Do you also share my worries with the packaging? That maybe that's just me and my deep-rooted problems. Or do you share my worries about the quality of the decks? Because they feel kind of I don't know. Let me know in the comments down below. Like, subscribe, and all that thing. Ring the bell. You can ring my bell. Like, subscribe. Packs, recreation. Bye.